Welcome to the Live Full, Work Fun podcast. This is the show to encourage you to live your life to the fullest and do fun work that fuels your lifestyle. Hi, I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. Every week, you'll be introduced to amazing guests, useful resources, and inspirational stories. You'll discover opportunities and perspectives to shape your version of living full and working fun. Before we get started with the show, I have a question for you. Are you a busy solopreneur struggling to find the time to consistently post to your social accounts? Well, the Scrivener Solutions team and I are introducing Scrivener Social, the easy-to-use social media scheduling platform paired with all of our workflows. It simplifies the entire posting process, saving you time and boosting your social media marketing efforts. Here's how it works. First, you subscribe to Scrivener Social, choosing the support level that best fits your needs. Second, we have onboarding calls to help you set up your account and give you the guidance for streamlining your posting process. Third, you implement your plan using our workflows to get more out of your social media marketing. Now, you could continue to do it alone, being frustrated and feeling guilty that you never get around to posting to your social accounts for your small business. Or you could save time, energy, and frustration by using an easy-to-use social scheduling platform backed by a support team that helps you streamline the whole process. You deserve a system that makes posting to your social media faster and more efficient. Go to scrivenersocial.com and subscribe today. Now, on to the show. Hi there and welcome. This is the show where we explore topics that help you create your lifestyle to live full and work fun. I'm Gayla Scrivener, joined by my co-host, Miss Fran Groesbeck. Hi, Fran.
Hey, Gayla.
What we're going to be talking about today has to do with, putting some thinking into a style guide. And I'll have to be honest with you, Fran. When I first started my business, I didn't even know what a style guide was. I was just flying by the seat of my pants. I kind of created this really hokey logo myself. I knew that there were some things about colors. I should have color choices. Looking back on it, I'm glad that I just got started. I didn't let the start stop me, right? So, but I did not understand really what a style guide was. And then honestly, when I was helping some clients with some project work, they didn't have a style guide either, and it made projects harder. So you know so much more about this subject. You live and breathe it, but I would love for you to explain, what is a style guide anyway?
A style guide is exactly what it says. So now, there can be a couple of names. It could be a brand guide, a corporate guide, but style guide is the more generic reference. What it does is it is a summary of the key visual elements that drive the brand and connect to the messaging. So when you've defined your strategy and you know your purpose, promise, and principles, how does that get reflected in the visual elements of your company? So if your purpose and promise and principles are founded in integrity and a more serious or professional tone, you're not going to have confetti and, superscript fonts. You're going to have more serif fonts. You're going to have more toned down colors. And what a style guide eventually does, and a lot of companies, especially solopreneurs, don't think they need one, but it is important whether you are a solopreneur or a multi-billion-dollar company so that your messaging stays consistent and that the brand voice is heard. So fonts, colors, images, and in the style guide, it is as important to select what you want as what you don't want. Actually, I worked on a brand once where our don't want pages were longer than what we do want because there were a lot of things we wanted to avoid. There's tone, there's voice, then there's the visual images, the fonts, the colors. and they all come together. And then the goal is you have this document that drives all your visual elements of all your marketing, of all your business documents. And if you work with a team or have an agency or it's a big company, everybody's going to work off that same guide. It came into play for me in my one job where our company became a global company, and we needed these people in these new offices to understand, how do you promote the company? They were going to do materials in their regions, but we all had to stay consistent so it still looked like the same company. But it is the voice of the brand.
So, Fran, you listed things like colors and fonts and voice that goes into a style guide. I mean, does it have to be complicated? What should, as a solopreneur, should you look for to put into a style guide? What are the basics?
The basics are your logo, which when you approach a style guide, the logo is usually already developed. So the logo happens first. And and usually during the creation of the logo, some of these things get worked out, especially color. So a style guide at minimum should have your logo. It should have some primary and some secondary colors. And what that means is if you use when you do graphics, you're going to focus on these. And we're talking maybe 3 or 4 primaries and 2 secondary, very simple. And then you have a page of fonts, and the fonts should just be 2 or 3. This page, the fonts page, is the one to really live by. You can tweak colors, you could add to colors, as long as you keep those primaries always flowing through. But with fonts, and it's a big mistake. It happens on websites a lot. It happens in newsletters a lot because they're driven by the platform that you're creating the website or the newsletter on. But sticking to your fonts it's another level of consistency. So in branding, it also keeps a document clean. So I'll talk on 2 sides, on branding and then distraction for visual acuity. For branding, if you have these set fonts, people start to recognize it. Oh, I know this newsletter. That's company A because I know this layout. I know those colors. The brain automatically goes, wait, I recognize this particular activator activated. For just general reasons, if you have too many fonts create a visual distraction or attraction. If you have too many fonts, the brain is trying to go, wait, what am I reading? What's going on here? And it's focusing on sorting through what it sees on the surface instead of what you're actually reading in the depth of the knowledge of the information. So this style guide, if you just had brands, colors, and fonts, you're in a great place. And you keep consistent with that, and then you share it. And again, whether you're a solopreneur who once a month is planning their marketing, when you get to that Friday or whatever day of the week you do your social and your newsletters, kind of have that style guide in front of you and a reminder of this is my guide. Create your templates using that. Create your different processes based around those 3 things. And if you have a team, everybody should have a copy who's doing creative for you so that everybody is. One of the hardest things when you are an entrepreneur, whether you're a solopreneur or a bigger team, and you hire an agency for one thing and you hire somebody else for another, they could start putting their visual touches on your material. And all of a sudden you have this disconnected brand. And all the things that we talk about are about connection. Well, connection in your branding is critical. If you start to look disconnected, you will lose traction with the audience that you're trying to build.
So, style guide puts in some consistency for the visuals so that people can associate and feel comfortable that, hey, this is not off brand or off kilter. I know that not having a style guide, and years ago when I was doing some freelance stuff and helping a small business with their website and getting started on that, and it was, Fran, it was disastrous. It was the hardest job. We were both frustrated because we went right into designing the website without doing some of the hard work first of defining. We've talked already about story branding. Back then, I was not even aware of that, the process and how important that is to have the words. But then also, just the pages did not have consistency with it. It was a hodgepodge and it didn't feel right. And every single image that we would work with him on was like a brand new day. And it was so difficult. And I think that we forget that we don't have to recreate the wheel every single day. That's the point of branding and having that style guide. Now, if colors are really important and we can tweak them. I know as of late, some of my current clients, two of my current clients just have three colors, and we struggle with three colors and want to instill some more complementary colors because for social images, we needed some more things to work with. And actually, a neutral color for website background or things like that, like a very pale gray or something that's complementary. But should you take certain things into consideration? You did mention if you're trying to be very formal and professional there, you don't want, hot pink on your website, but are there rights and wrongs for color or go with what feels good?
Yes and yes. There is significant volumes of information on color theory and color study and what colors evoke what emotions and what tones. And so, yes, color should be thought out, but it also should be what feels right to the brand. Now, I warn one thing, and this happens a lot when it comes to style guides. You have to think who your target audience is, not always what you like. Now, if you're a solopreneur, the business owner, you should like the color palette, but it also has to resonate with, and I'd say that the business owner or the driver has to be the final say on the color. And you can't, color can be so subjective that you really have to make this decision on these are the colors I want to go with. Color does have, so if you have a business and you are selling candles, and these candles are meant for meditation and earthiness, you are going to use earth tone colors. That doesn't mean you're limited to beige and white. You're just going to use earth tones. You're going to use grass greens. You're going to use sky blues. You're not going to use electric blue. You're not going to use neons. So there is theory, there's color theory, but when you said the word feel, that is critical to the whole style guide together. What is the feel that you want to give, as well as do all these pieces create a consistent feeling? Color is critical. It's critical. And there's different ways to apply it. I actually love studying color, and I'm a big fan of Lee Eisman of the Pantone Institute. Colors of the year watch what's happening there. It's just really powerful. But every color has its own sense of emotions that it stirs. And then even the shades of those colors, the tones, the hues, the concentrations, the saturations, they then can further define the feelings evoked. But color can also help convey things that you wouldn't expect. So we have a client that we worked on, and they are a women-owned business. And while the product that they sell would not necessarily be associated with pink, we found a pink that worked with the overall color scheme for this business because we wanted it to have this feminine effect. And that leads into tone and voice. So we could talk about that next if you'd like. But pink was crucial to them. They wanted to evoke the feminine, but at first the pink just wasn't fitting. And then we went, oh, okay, let's desaturate it a bit. And we found the right pink that helped tell the story.
I know when I very first started, I found some sort of logo maker and I found this hokey little font and I started. But I kept it for a lot longer than I thought I should. But I got started. And I'm kind of embarrassed when I see, I don't know why, but my mother keeps those old business cards and stuff like that. It's
Oh, I
like, can
love
we throw those away? And she's like, oh, I'm so proud. And I'm like, well, let's throw that away. But I changed about halfway, I mean, several years ago, and I liked it because we are an implementation team and gears. The imagery of gears and working together and working in a smooth process and workflow that resonated with me. And I had the O's in solutions as a gear for a period of time. And I wanted to move away from, I had blue and gray because blue was supposed to be businessy. Well, I felt too businessy because we're a live full work fun company. And it's not that we don't work hard or we're not serious, or I just don't want to be a corporate entity. And we can still have professionalism and be creative and fun at the same time. And I believe that our clients want to live a full life and have work that brings them joy. So why have drab colors is what I was thinking. And so Brandy on my team helped me come up with a color palette of brighter colors. And that was fun, and we did that. We went with it, but they were just a tad off. Just a tad. Do you know how I really like my current color palette. And do you know how I got this? My current color palette.
How did you get this?
Okay, so it was probably 2 or 3 years that we were going with the brighter colors uh, for Scrivener Solutions, and we have gear icons that represent different things that we do, and all fun. Well, my mom's birthday was coming up, and we have a tradition to do Krispy Kreme donuts. I give her a few dozen donuts from Krispy Kreme. She doesn't have them very often, and we have fresh Krispy Kreme donuts. We eat a box or two as the family, and then she gets a box or two. So for a small family, we buy a lot of Krispy Kremes. Well, that year, about maybe 2 years ago, I went ahead and got their happy birthday wrapper around one of the boxes. And I loved the wrapper, the candles on the candle pictures, the shades of the yellow, the teal, the green, the blues made me smile, made me happy, brought me joy. And they were just ever so slightly different than what we were already using. So I updated our color palette to fall more in line with the happy birthday Krispy Kreme candles. And it just brought me joy. And I look at the things that we're producing with those colors and it makes me smile. It brings me joy. And I hope that people that work with me, it brings them joy too. And then I realized I ever so slightly took out the gears out of our logo and they're just regular O's. And it just makes it cleaner. And we have our other products that have complementary colors, like Live Full Work Fun, that yellow that we use. That's just the sunshiny yellow that I just really love. So color has a lot of emotion with it, right? It wasn't that the other colors were bad, but I'm really liking these colors. And there was even a pink shade, and I'm really not into pink, and I don't really want to use pink, but I'm okay to use them on blog post header images and things like that because it goes. And I'm in the midst of updating my personal brand page, and we're using the same colors just in a different combination. And there is a green, more of a not grassy green, but more of a green, because teal or turquoise is really my favorite color. But this green I really like because of my outdoorsy nature. And I want to instill that in my personal brand. And then we have Scrivener Social that uses the yellows, and Scrivener Solution really heavily uses the teal. And I don't know, you're right. It does have emotion, but I think that the business owner can look at something and if that brings them joy and it aligns with the messaging, I think it works.
You're saying all the right words and you're explaining to people exactly how the journey goes. And the beautiful thing about any part of the style guide, but color is usually my favorite part. You've used 3 words that are so important, especially when you're doing this for an entrepreneur. How do they feel? And does it bring them joy and make them smile? They don't connect with it. They're not gonna embrace that style guide for themselves later or with their team, whatever that may be. They have to love and own that guide. They have to love that logo. They have to love their colors, and they have to feel connected to the fonts. It all sounds small or unimportant detail, but visual consistency is really powerful. But if you and you can pick these things and have a nice style guide, but if they make you smile and they bring you joy, then the messages you create when you go to work on those materials, you're going to be up yourself because you're like, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh my gosh, I know I'm going to use the green. I love that you said use green because it's a more outdoorsy side of the company when you do the live for work fun and you're the on the go. It's all purposeful. My key colors are gold, black, and white. And that is absolutely intentional. And I have a more neutral primary palette because I have a broader secondary palette. But my logo, the center of it is from a piece of artwork from my daughter. And the change that we're going through right now and the new icons and visual elements that'll be coming out are from the original piece. And that piece of artwork, which still hangs on my wall, in the center says the word breathe. And it's just this beautiful line work piece. And I said, I want that right there in my logo. And then I said, oh, it's going to be the golden flower. So it became gold. And then I said, oh, I'll stick with black, gold, and white so that I can then play with, because I love color. So I had to have a way to have breadth. So my breadth is in my secondary palette, but I do have a tone for the secondary palette. There's a certain tone level for those colors in the secondary palette. But I love everything you said because your journey is exactly the journey. And I love that you said you started with the gears and now it's changed. That's another thing to brand owners. All the things we talk about, every single podcast, every single piece of advice we give, do not stop doing what you're doing if you don't have that piece ready. Keep going. There will never be a time that you have every single box ticked, and then that's the time to start. The time to start is now.
I love that you say that. Yeah. The time is, I mean,
start one.
you don't even know what you don't know until you try. And with those gears, they're still appropriate. I still use them, just in different places and not my logo. And because we work with workflows and we're implementers, and gears is a symbol of working together when they're aligned, and it makes processes run smoother. So, and there's a lot of pieces that go into what we do, and it involves teamwork and it involves different pieces of content. So I love, and you touched on something, color ties into tone and voice. How? I don't understand that.
Both the colors and the fonts will tie into tone and voice. So tone and voice is identifying things, but if you were to turn your company into a person, who would they be? And are they going to be funny? Are they going to be whimsical? Are they going to be very feminine? Is it a bit more masculine and professional? Are you going to be serious? Are you going to be informative? Are you an authority? So the tone and the voice, and they kind of sound like the same thing. Tone is kind of the preset to the voice. So if you want to have more free flowing, you're probably going to be a little whimsical and then the colors from there are going to be bright and bold. But if you're more professional, and so then your voice is more one of authority, you're probably going to have a lot more serif fonts, and your colors are going to be more subdued. You're not going to, I always reference this like as neons because I'm a child of the 80s. So you're not going to have a big neon palette if you're that professional firm. I love what you touched on with the greens. If you're Maybe you're a spa-based business or something about holistic healing. You're going to be, so your tone is earthy, your tone is healing. So your voice is one of caring and kindness. Your colors are probably going to be really muted, and your fonts might be, even if you are not a female business owner and you have one of these types of businesses, it might have a little bit more feminine feel to the fonts because it's this nurturing maternal feeling you want to evoke. So all of this tone and voice comes through in the colors. So if you, I'll use my logo for an example. 10 Touch Creative, the font is Athena of the Ocean. And I wanted to bring in femininity without doing something traditionally feminine. So I picked a script that was, and big thing with scripts and handwriting fonts, always make sure they are legible.
Amen.
Type out every character, every sentence, every type header. Make sure it's legible. Just because you like it doesn't mean it will work if they can't read what it says. So what I loved about Athena is you can read clearly what is said, and it's almost a blend of a print and a script. But that was my way of ejecting femininity. Because I don't, this also needed to represent me, and I am not the pink girly, like you said, I've never been that, but I do, and black is my favorite color. So that really comes together. But the voice and the tone is actually what you have to do before you even start the style guide. And you should think about that before you even create your logo. If you already have one, that's a different story. But if you don't, or if you're really in that beginning phase, think about, what is it I want to be? Who is it? Am I the comedian? Am I the serious professor? Am I, give it a personality and then work from there. And we talk about this all the time, that it's all personal. So let it reflect who you are. Let it reflect, who your business is, what you want your business to be. Don't worry about what it should be. And we talked about this recently on the podcast. The word should can be very dangerous. Who do you want your company to be? And who do you want to be? And let that come through in the colors. Don't worry about right or wrong, in the sense of there are rights and wrongs visually. Like, you don't want to pick contrasting colors. You always want to pick complementary colors. And there are ways, there's tools. I'll mention it again. The Pantone website has wonderful tools to find complementary colors and pick Pantone codes. You want fonts that are legible. But once you kind of filter all that out, go with the ones you like. Go with exactly what you said before, Gayla, every step of the way through the style guide, what makes you smile and what brings you joy. Because then every time you go to work on something visual, and every time you go to work with your team, you're just going to be more inspired because you've got this amazing foundation to work from.
And when you go through figuring out, like, you could be in business for years and have a reset, if you will. You don't even have to have a total turnover of your brand. It can be slight changes. My Gayla Scrivener logo, I guess you could say, it's just a plain logo, but I like the script. I like the G in it. It took me forever to find the G that I liked the look of. And that is what I went with and made my logo for Gayla Scrivener just a particular font. And that's what I went with. But it's okay. As a business owner, we evolve, and we may have started out and we just to serve everybody just because we needed business. And the more that we worked with folks, we learned things about ourselves. I think it was one of my guests, Evan Cox. I think he was the one that says entrepreneurship is the best self-discovery exercise ever. And that's true, because we can learn so much about ourselves. So we can go through the story branding again. Or if we started our business and whether you're 10 years in, whatever, but to really nail down your new voice. I think that I don't know where I heard this from, but I've heard it more than once, that we change as people about every 7 to 10 years. So we shouldn't think that our businesses that we run are going to be exactly the same as the day that we open. So using and tweaking up the colors. I love what you said. It inspires us. And if you don't like looking at your stuff that your team is putting out, it may not be most likely not your team's fault. It's the voice, the tone, the look may have not been established to bring you joy.
I agree 100%. It's a small, simple step to take to really enhance and embrace what you're going to do. I'm sure we've all gone to places where I'll use a restaurant as an example, where the restaurant, the menu, the colors inside, the colors outside, the awning, everything was connected. And you could just, from the minute you made the reservation on your phone to the minute you sat down to the minute you left, everything was, you knew you were in that place. That's all built on a style guide. That's all built on, this is who we want to be. And these businesses where you really get that feeling of connection throughout all components, from the digital to the physical, that's connected, it's founded in the style guide. And I highly recommend that you look at all those pieces. So if you see that, if you have a brick and mortar or a restaurant or any kind of physical storefronts, physical building that you run your business from, make sure it reflects your style guide. All of these visual consistencies and all of these attention to detail tell your customer how much you care about your business. That may sound odd. Well, what does it matter if I have a handwritten sign or a printed sign? Well, it's handwritten on a whiteboard versus a really pretty printed sign with the same colors, symbols, elements. It's a different message. It just shows what you're putting in your business, time and effort. And that's what's amazing. When you study the science of the brain and how it works, the brain filters so much so fast before we even realize and start to process information. And paying attention to all these details clears the clutter for your audience, the visitor that you're trying to attract, the client you're trying to attract, to filter through and get right through the information you want it to hear, or you want them to hear. All these other distractions and inconsistencies cause these roadblocks that will stop them from getting them where we need them to go.
I love that you said clear the clutter, because that's what I'm all about with words. Clear the clutter from the words, because the mantra in the StoryBrand community is, when you confuse, you lose. And when the words are worked out and the brand script is worked out, the visuals have to match that, because there is so much unspoken word. There's so much unspoken to tell the story. And if you have visuals, you went into color quite a bit. If it just seems off, and if it's off to you as a business owner, you can go. I was off just a little bit. It was more whimsical, but then I feel a little bit better with just changing the tones a little bit. I had yellow before, but it's not highlighter yellow now. It's a different yellow, and it brings me joy. It's happy birthday joy. So I like that. And we go through that, and we have this creative piece in and how we're made up. So some of what we do is intuitive. You study color a lot, I study, and we do that. But not everybody is trained in design. So it is very helpful to get a consultation, to get help if you need it. No, don't let the start stop you. If you need to just figure it out and do a few things. But if you've been in business for a while and you're like, it's kind of off, I'm not really liking it, maybe you need an outside perspective and somebody that's trained. Now you at 10 Touch, you do consultations for style guides, for messaging, tone, and a whole workup for branding, don't you?
We do. And when you work with, I love that you talked about this. So when you work with a team, a lot of people think the things that you and I do, Gayla, are easy because there's all these platforms and systems out there. And they're all wonderful, Canva, and you can search Google Fonts. But when you deal with people who've done this for a long time, they know deeper levels of information. So we're going through rebranding. We dropped agency because I felt it was too corporate culture. You and I are trying to break the corporate mindset. Agency's gone. I have 10 Touch Creative now. And I love it because it fits to the purpose that we're here. But when we do the style guide, I always love when we get, so our team, and I have my lead visual designer, I love when she whips out something that they didn't expect. So for example, when you work with fonts, it's not always just the font that you see. Every character not only has an uppercase and a lowercase, but it has alternate formats. And you have to know how to act talking about wanting a part of the symbol to look a certain way. And instead of designing it, she found it in the font. And so we could keep one font because you don't want to, either you have a custom design or you want to use a font. It's hard to have the two together and create consistency. She found a font where this one character just needed to be an alternate version in the existing font and solve the problem. And we get you started real simple, like we talked about. Let's just get that tone and voice down, pick the colors, and pick the right fonts. Clear the clutter out. It's not a complicated process. You can get complicated. We have some who like to make it complicated, and we have 50-page style guides. It doesn't have to be that way. But yes, we work to help you make this a simple, quick process and something that you can really own and love and take your company to the next level.
Well, when you have a style guide, and if you're a solopreneur and wearing all the hats, whether you get help or not, but if you have that style guide formalized, one sheet of paper is fine. You have your logo, you have the fonts, the size of the fonts that you typically use, and the colors and those hex codes. The color numbers is what I'm talking about. If you're not aware, just to know those color numbers, because any design type of software that you use, if you have the right numbers, then you can always be consistent. Your website, you don't have to just well, it is a yellow, but it's not quite yet. You need those RGB hex colors. I always use the hex.
Hex is best for digital. RGB and CMYK. So CMYK is for your print. RGB is also digital, but hex is simpler.
Yeah. So if you don't know about the hex, it has a hashtag in front of it, and it's 6 digits, whether it's letters or numbers, and you can get that. But having that streamlines so many things. We use it a lot in Canva, and I don't recall the free version, but I believe you can do this. I have a paid version so that we can have all these different style guides for all of our clients. And if you're using Canva and you haven't loaded in your branding, your fonts, which you can upload your font, you can purchase and upload if you choose one that is not free or readily available, I should say, and getting all of your color tones in there. By the time you're ready to do social post or a brochure or something in Canva, you have your colors right there. You have your fonts. So you could get somebody else's template, because Canva is a tool that you can use. It's supposed to make your job easier, but you can make it not somebody else's tone and voice and look, but your own, just by utilizing and uploading and taking the time to put your branding, your style guide right there in the branding section of your Canva account. And you can even upload particular icons. If you use regular icons, I have a client that has learning domain icons, and there's 5 of them, and they're a different color and they're a different meaning. And for all of her courses, we know which learning domain, so we need to put that little icon on there, and we coordinate with the color of the icon. So it makes your job so much easier. If you have a slide presentation, for goodness sake, you could use somebody else's template, but you can, with a shift of of colors and fonts, it's your own. And that's why, I mean, it's supposed to make your job easier in the long run. And sometimes the setup takes a little longer than what you think it should. But once it's set up, then your systems, your workflow is so much better. And then by the time you're ready to delegate to somebody, you have a look and feel already, and they can use those tools. Like you said, I mean, as solopreneurs, chances are you're going to get, if you're going to grow your business in such a way that you're not working 24/7, you're going to have a team. And whether you develop your own style guide or you have a team member do it for you, or you have a consultant do it for you and you're happy with it, it makes your life so much easier.
It really does.
And working with and working with folks, contractors, it makes the conversation easier. Going back to the beginning of our conversation, working with somebody without a style guide whatsoever and being naive enough to not work one up, or, you know, just feeling like he didn't think it was necessary. It's, you know, I've learned from that, you know, you learn by doing. So, you know, how can folks work with you, Fran, if they would like to work up a style guide? What's it like working with you?
It's a really simple process. If you already have a logo, we start there. It's a simple questionnaire we go through to get that tone and voice down. And we ask simple questions on, do you already have an idea of colors? And the other thing we usually ask for, which is always the fun part of the project, send us pictures. They could be stock pictures, your own pictures, snapshots that you think reflect what you want things to look like. They could be pictures of nature, they could be pictures of cartoons, they can be whatever. From those pictures, we get an idea of where they're headed, and we can better hone in on those colors and fonts. And we come back with some, we always keep things, I love threes. So I give palettes and fonts in options of threes. We do 2 rounds where we go through and narrow down until we find that joy spot where they're like, yeah, that's it. And it's not that complicated. It does take input from the client. This isn't just me selecting it. I'm just a reflection of what the client's telling me. I listen to process and then find the colors that fit the tone and the voice and the fonts and the style. But it's a really simple, fun process. And you get to do things you don't always get to do. Like sharing those pictures, I've gotten some really fun pictures in my time of what people like, you know, remembering old cartoons. I keep saying cartoons because there was one that was particularly very enamored with cartoons. And yeah, so it's just a really fun, simple process. And Gayla, like you said, there are systems, even Adobe does it, where you can pre-program this in there. So whether it's Canva, Adobe, or one of these others, it's going to now start to think like you, for you, as you create materials. And I always say, keep that one pager up somewhere you could see it. Or when you're going to do something creative, have it out in front of you and remember that journey of creating that. And it really can be an inspiration, but it's not as hard as it sounds.
It's almost like, you know, those home shows that they come in and make over your home, and it's like, oh,
It's
this
all
is so wonderful. Ah,
this is the color.
it's almost like that, because it does get emotional, and our business is our life, right? It's all personal, and our business should bring us joy, and bring us joy in helping others succeed. So whether it's a product or a service, I think that another piece to our journey is knowing our tone, voice, how a style or how imagery really plays into that. And I appreciate you going into a deep dive on that, because I go with it. I'm not as schooled in this as you are, and intuitively, I know that I love it when a client already has a style guide, or we work through that process. And I know that uh, one of our clients just recently, we had 3 colors to work with, and we're like, I'd like to have a secondary some secondary colors that we're consistent with, and we added to those. And because the 3 colors that she likes are very professional, but she's trying to portray a more friendly, but she loves her primary colors, which are, there's nothing wrong with them, but we needed some alternatives. So we worked through that, and it just feels good for everybody on the team. So it's just really nice, and it brought a new conversations with current clients. So I would love to hear what our listeners think. I hop over to the Live Full Work Fun group on Facebook, and let's talk about it. Put in do you have a style guide? Do you not? Why? Why not? What are your favorite colors? What drives you? And maybe we can strike up some conversations to inspire. Thanks for this conversation today, Fran. I loved it.
Thanks, Gayla. This was a fun one.
I appreciate it. Now, everyone, I wish everyone a wonderful and fantastic week. And remember, live full, work fun. This episode has been brought to you by Scrivener Social, the easy-to-use social scheduling platform built for the busy solopreneur. You deserve a system that makes posting to your social media faster and more efficient. Go to scrivenersocial.com and subscribe today.